This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good afternoon, and we come on the air because President Trump moments ago signed an executive order. This will affect the separation of parents from their children at the border. Let's take a listen to what the president said moments ago.
Thank you very much. We're signing an executive order. I consider it to be a very important executive order. It's about keeping families together while at the same time being sure that we have a very powerful, very strong border, and border security will be equal, if not greater, than previously. So we're going to have strong, very strong borders, but we're going to keep the families together. I didn't like the sight or the feeling of families being separated. There's a problem that's gone on for many years, as you know, through many administrations, and we're working very hard on immigration. It's been just left out in the cold. People haven't dealt with it, and we are dealing with it. So step by step, just like we dealt with North Korea, we dealt with Iran, we dealt with an economy that was heading in the wrong direction, we dealt with a lot of different problems. This is one that has been gone on for many decades. So we're keeping families together, and this will solve that problem. At the same time, we are keeping a very powerful border, and it continues to be a zero tolerance. We have zero tolerance for people that enter our country illegally. With that, I'd ask Mike Pence, Vice President, if he'd like to say anything.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And, I think what the President's made clear is we believe it's a false choice between whether we are a country of law and order, a country with borders, and a country that demonstrates the compassion and the heart of the American people and respect for families. By taking this action, the President will make it possible for us to continue to engage in enforcing the law against individuals who violate our law, come into our country illegally, but now we'll be able in that prosecution in the immediate days forward to keep families together as that goes forward. But we are calling on Congress to change the laws in this regard and in a broad range of areas that will secure our borders and give us strength and confidence that we are once again going to take the steps necessary to end the crisis of illegal immigration in America.
I think the word compassion comes into it, but it's still equally as tough, if not tougher. Secretary Newsom.
I just thank you for your leadership, sir. We look forward and expect the House to act this week. We ask them to do their job. The laws need to be changed. This is a problem that president after president has dealt with for decades. This one is willing to stand up and fix it. We ask Congress to do their part. Thank you, sir, for your leadership.
Thank you very much. Great job. Okay. You're going to have a lot of happy people. Yeah.
President, why did you wait so long to find this coverage?
This has been going on for 60 years. 60 years, nobody's taken care of it. Nobody's had the political courage to take care of it, but we're going to take care of it. It's been going on for a long time.
Do you think you're backing down? Critics
No, the border is just as tough, but we do want to keep families together. This is a problem. If you look at some of those horrible scenes from a few years ago, to me they were horrible scenes. They were just terrible, and that was during the Obama administration. Other administrations have had the same thing. We're keeping the family together, and so this is it. And also, there may be some litigation. We're also wanting to go through Congress. We will be going through Congress. We're working on a much more comprehensive bill. A lot of good things are happening toward immigration and proper immigration, but we have to have strong borders, and ultimately we want to see it done right, and it will be done right. But what we have done today is we are keeping families together. The borders are just as tough, just as strong. They can come in through ports of entry if they want. That's a whole different story. And that's coming in through a process, and the process is what we want. So I want to thank you all very much. I think this is something that...
What is your level of frustration that you still don't have money for that border wall with Mexico?
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll get the wall done. We'll get the wall done. Yes?
Did Ivanka Trump show you photos of the children being separated separated from their...
No, Ivanka feels very strongly. My wife feels very strongly about it. I feel very strongly about it. I think anybody with a heart would feel very strongly about it. We don't like to see families separated. At the same time, we don't want people coming into our country illegally. This takes care of the problem. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Caitlin.
There you have it. The president in the Oval Office, the vice president, his secretary of Homeland Security, both by his side. He said he has signed an executive order, we just watched him do it, that would keep families together while at the same time continue to have strong borders. The president saying moments ago, I did not like the sight, talking about the images the country and now the world has seen in these last few days of children being held in what appeared to be cages and in those tents that have now come up along the border there in Texas and as well as other places. He said he didn't like the sight. It's a problem that's gone on for many years, but that particular problem of separating children from their families obviously is something new and something that came with his zero tolerance policy imposed under his Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He said we are now dealing with it, just like we dealt with North Korea, among other issues that he listed there. He said we're going to keep families together, that we will solve this problem, though we will continue to have zero tolerance. And he said, Cecilia Vega, our senior White House correspondent, that I think the word compassion comes to mind. That's the word the president used, though this has gone on for days now, with many people in this country imploring the president and lawmakers on Capitol Hill in both parties to do something about this.
And so many people, even members of the president's own party, say that this policy represented the exact opposite of compassion. Cruel, evil, un-American, not our country are some of the words that have been used to describe this policy. Make no mistake about it. The president had said that the ball was in the Democrats' court. His own allies said it was as simple as what he did today. For days, they have been hammering this president, this administration, over and over and over again to put a stop to his policy. It's his policy. It's not Democrats' policy to pick up the phone and stop this. Lindsey Graham said it himself, and President Trump for days has maintained that he could not do this by executive order, that this was not his action to stop. Well, today he proved himself wrong. He was backed into a corner. He couldn't get out of this one. The political crisis has engulfed this White House, perhaps larger than one I've seen in a long time covering this administration. He said anybody with heart would have done this. But as you just said, David, Republicans, unanimous in the Senate, said that they were opposed to this. This was not just Democrats. This was not just protesters following his Homeland Security director to dinner last night at a Mexican restaurant, chanting her in protest out of that restaurant. This was not just the families of these children. This was not just immigrant right advocates, David. This was Republicans here on Capitol Hill who were also unanimous in their opposition to this policy by this White House.
And Cecilia, I have in front of me the transcript from the president just last Friday. You spoke of this. He was out in front of the White House addressing reporters there in the driveway right behind where you do your live reports every night. The president was asked, do you agree with children being taken away? And one of the things he said in response was that we can't do this through executive order. We can't address this issue through executive order, though that's what he just did moments ago, signing that executive order. Many have said all along that all this would take was a simple phone call to his attorney general to stop this.
A phone call and a signature. That's essentially what he did today. His Homeland Security secretary came down to the White House. They hammered out these details in an executive order. He signed it. Now, I think there are a number of people here who are bracing for some potential lawsuits. You know, as the president said, this does not end zero tolerance. This does not mean these children and their parents will not be in custody if they attempt to cross the border illegally, or perhaps for that matter, those children who are in custody now. This is a big question going forward. What happens to these kids who are still in detention? How will the U.S. government reunite them with their families, some of whom we have heard have since been deported? This is going to be a very complicated process going forward. But as we understand it, this executive order that just moments ago President Trump just signed, this will allow these parents and their children to stay together while they are detained as these cases are processed for more than 20 days, a policy that did not exist before. Children were forbidden from being held for longer than 20 days. But he said it. He couldn't sign an executive order, and we saw him do just that today, David.
Cecilia Vega there at the White House. Cecilia, stick with us here. As we've just reported, the president signing an executive order moments ago, he said, will prevent now parents being separated from their children. Those parents, even as they go through proceedings after entering the country illegally, they will no longer be separated, saying the word that comes to mind, his mind, is compassion. This comes after many days now, the country and the world now watching these images of children being separated from their parents. I do want to bring in Marcus Moore. He's reporting in live from Raymondville, Texas. And Marcus, we also know this comes just hours after media outlets, including our own, began reporting about the children who are being taken care of in these tender care facilities, these places for the particularly vulnerable, the babies that have now been separated from their parents.
Yeah, that's right, David. We have wondered all along where those children were, and we are getting our first look at one of those facilities here in Raymondville. This is one of 3 facilities here in the Rio Grande Valley area of Texas, the southwestern part of the state along the U.S.-Mexico border. And you can just see here, this is a remote facility, and it's behind a green fence there, and you see a soccer field with the soccer goals. There's a canopy there with a park bench and that palm tree. And then the main facility itself, difficult to see, but you can just see the top of it there, this building there, the steeples along the top. This is where this facility is located, and I want to show you how remote it is. David, look, there's cropland on all sides of this building, and there's only a rural, lonely road, and all you hear when you come out here is the frogs making noise and also birds chirping, and the occasional vehicle will pass by. But David, this is what many people have wondered, what type of facility these children are in. And as you have mentioned this afternoon, the most vulnerable, the youngest, are inside this building being cared for.
All right, Marcus Moore, thanks to you. And of course, one of the main questions we'll be reporting out as the afternoon progresses here is, now that the children won't be separated from their parents, will they all be held together in those facilities, in those tents, in those shelters, and for how long? Those are all important questions that we just don't have answered at this point. I do want to show you a tweet just moments ago from Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter, saying, "Thank you, POTUS, for taking critical action ending family separation at our border. Congress must now act and find a lasting solution that is consistent with our shared values, the same values that so many come here seeking as they endeavor to create a better life for their family." It's been reported that Melania Trump also has felt very strongly about this issue, though members of the Trump family have taken heat criticism for not having impacted the president much earlier on this, since days have gone by as we've watched this zero tolerance policy play out on television screens. And Cecilia, I want to bring you back in on this, because every living former First Lady, Michelle Obama, Laura Bush, Hillary Clinton, Rosalind Carter, have all come out and condemned this. It was something that Hillary Clinton talked about on the campaign in one of those final debates, predicting that this could indeed happen, that these pictures we would see would play out, and we have seen them this last week or so. And now you've heard from Ivanka Trump and from the First Lady, but it doesn't come without criticism.
It does not come without criticism. And going back to those first ladies on that day when all of them came out, first ladies from whom we have not heard weigh in on policy in years, decades perhaps, from Laura Bush, Rosalind Carter, and when Melania Trump weighed in that day saying she doesn't like to see these children separated from their parents either. You know, she was hammered online for that, David. People called her complicit, as they are doing the same for Ivanka Trump right now. The president in that Oval Office, we just saw him speaking a few minutes ago, said that his wife talked to him about this. We are told from sources here that there were multiple conversations between the president and the first lady, that she urged him to put an end to this policy. I am told by sources that President yesterday, when he was on Capitol Hill talking to Republicans about this issue of immigration, he told them that Ivanka Trump had shown him some images and that she had expressed a significant concern about the images that she was seeing. I am sensing a split in terms of public relations happening from sources here inside this White House, that there is the Ivanka Trump camp, there is the, trying to talk the president out of this policy that he was so intent on, pitted against the Stephen Millers of the world, the immigration hardliners who came into this White House wanting to see policies exactly like this. But make no mistake about this, David, this was a crisis, a public relations crisis for this White House. They were backed into a corner. There was no way out of this.
Again, the president just a short time ago signing an executive order that he says will end the separation of these families, these parents from their children. It will keep families together, the president said, while still having very strong borders. As I mentioned, a lot of questions still to be answered on this. How long will they keep those families together in those detention centers? Among those main questions, our entire team on this will have much more throughout the afternoon at abcnews.com, and a complete report tonight on World News Tonight. Our thanks to Marcus and Cecilia, and we'll see you for World News Tonight. Good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.